This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We are going to talk about bass fishing. We still got some derbies taking place, some seasons winding up. We have one more regular season event. We'll ask our one of our guests today. He's actively pursuing his second Angler of the Year title in 3 years. That'd be Kyle Welcher, who Drew Cook, I think, got him by like 2 points after a very stingy NPFL event that was held on Lake of the Ozarks, and Nick Brown gets it done. Basically, there were like a dozen guys in that field who went out because they all fished 3 days, and they went out and they did not catch a 15-incher in 3 days. That'll tell you how tough it is. That was like 15% of the field. Then we got John Cruz back in because today we've all had a moment to breathe since our trip to Japan, where we went to the Sunline factory, sang karaoke 4 consecutive nights, and tried all sorts of crazy food, and then went to 5 different tackle shops. And I wanted some of the guys to get some of the stuff out, and John has videos out. Kyle has stuff coming out. And there's also a Sunline promo that is running right now. So I thought, what better way? I'm not sure if Kyle's a big hunter. I don't think John Cruz is a big hunter, but it's hard to get guys on right now. I said, so we'll save it for this time of the year. We'll get them in and we're going to dive deep into Japan, all things Japan, bait, tackle, line, Sunline, and see where it goes from there. We'll bring Kyle in first. Kyle Welcher. What do you get, like a birthday party or something?
Yeah, it was my birthday party 2 days ago, and then his big birthday party is this Saturday. So we still got his name up and little decorations on the wall. So I got home Saturday at like 3 o'clock, and we had his birthday party at like 5 o'clock. So pretty fun time right now.
Very nice. Oh, it did not seem like Lake of the Ozarks was a pretty fun time. Like that seemed like a grind to put a 15-inch fish in the boat, Kyle.
You know, and I love those tournaments. Like I was so excited for that one. I caught 8 keeper bass in practice, and I almost could not sleep the night before because I was so excited for those, because it's a completely different feeling whenever you blast off in a tournament and you have nowhere you want to go. Like I feel like that's not a completely different feeling.
That's what happens every day to me.
Well, a lot of times you have anxiety of, are my fish going to stay? You know, okay. You know, is the pattern going to hold true? And in those grinders, man, it's not like that at all. It's complete just new water running around. And I got very, very fortunate of how I finished in that one, because the area of the lake that I was fishing was the toughest area of the lake. Nobody caught them in the area that I was fishing consistently. Everybody caught them like 5 miles away from. Somehow I had a decent tournament fishing probably the worst area of the lake. So, I didn't find it in practice, so I just kind of scrambled around in a bad area, and we made the best of it, I feel like. But yeah, that was very tough one.
Like, I mean, obviously you want to be in the best area of the lake. Did you know you were in a tough area, that there were less people there? Did you think it was the best area? And then after, as the tournament went on, you realized it was a bad area?
Well, I started out day one of the tournament just kind of running and gunning quick, and I got a bite. And then the direction the wind was blowing made me kind of go a certain way the first day. And then I caught like a limit the first day, and I didn't any day of practice. So I was like, And whenever the wind kind of changed on day 2 and day 3, that area got super, super tough. But the only reason I was able to catch a limit on day 1 was because of the wind. And you know, I made an adjustment on day 3, and I made a long run. I didn't go where everybody else was, but I made a long run and actually caught a big one on day 3 out of some water that I'd never fished. But the wind kind of misled me the first day because I didn't have anywhere I was going. So I just started running, wind-blown stuff, and I started catching them. So then on day 2, I realized quickly that the only reason I caught them was the wind. So I completely changed again, but the the only reason I fished that area is because it was close to takeoff, and I was just running and gunning stuff early, and then I expanded on the pattern for that day. And then I didn't realize until everybody that I was fishing around caught nothing or 1 or 2. After day 1 and day 2, that I was like, oh, this is not the productive area for sure.
Nice. I can hear you. You're a little glitchy. Is there anywhere closer to a router, or are you on wire? Are you on
make sure I'm on the right wire.
Yeah. I mean, I got all that, but I mean, I like it for the podcast to try to be crisp.
Yeah.
Bad.
No, I have a Starlink.
Oh no! Did he just say that he had Starlink? Because I was gonna go to Starlink. Oh, now I'm very conflicted. I think he tried to change it. We'll bring in John Cruz. He's in the mist. There you go. You're back, Kyle.
Kyle's back.
Oh, now Kyle's sideways. He has no audio now.
What about now?
Yeah, we're back now. Did you say you had Starlink? Yeah, that's a little bit better. Did you say you have Starlink?
Yeah, we have Starlink. We have Starlink, and we have like a Verizon hotspot, because we have the road we live on doesn't have enough people that live on it for like actual cable, fiber optic cables or whatever. So the Starlink is pretty good. Like, it's actually really good.
Is that what you're on right now? Is Starlink?
Well, I wasn't at first, but I just changed to it. So now I'm on Starlink.
Oh yeah, no, you're golden. You're like crystal clear now. Let me. I do want to bring this up, because when it comes to grinders, there's a lot of folks, and rightfully so. Like, when the fish are biting, there's a lot of people that can catch them. John Cruz, multiple Elite Series winner, Kyle Welcher, Angler here. Would you guys agree with me there?
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
As someone who's covered this sport a lot and fished 40 plus Bassmaster Opens, I think what really separates is when it's really tough. And it's the guys who can go out. And to me, it's like when you go to an NHL game, everybody seems like they're at a pretty good skill level. But when you take an NHL guy and you put him in a men's league game, which I've been a part of before, it's like crazy, because you don't understand when everyone has a skill set. You don't understand how good everyone is. When you take guys with those skill sets and then put them in a different arena, they stick out like a sore thumb. Like, an NHL player in a men's league or a club hockey practice is dangerous. And I say that because it's no secret on the MPFL. There's a lot of guys who fish full time, but there's a lot of business owners on the MPFL, a lot of guys who work, who can get time off, who enjoy fishing. I don't think there's very many guys who make their living. I don't think there's anybody who could make their living just straight on NPFL.
Yeah.
Fair assessment, Kyle.
Yeah, pretty fair.
But the guys who do make their livings fishing at a tournament like this Lake of the Ozarks, when it is so tough to come in with 5, I'm just going to run down the list. Obviously, Nick Brown, congratulations. He didn't even have a limit. He just had big fish. He had 13 fish. But listen to the guys in the top who have been touring pros, either current, past that. Joseph Webster, 2nd. Drew Cook, 3rd. John Cox, 5th. John Soka, 6th. Zach Burge, 8th. Brandon Perkins, 10th. Kyle Welcher, 11th. Wes Logan, 16th. Patrick Walters, 23rd. Like, that's pretty much the majority of guys who are fishing that, who are on other tours right now, all in the top 25 there. I pointed that out. Like, when the grinding gets grindy, the grinders grind.
Yeah, it's just, and John knows this as good as anybody. It's all mindset. That's all it is. Like, you just have to go into the tournament understanding what it's going to be. And if you leave, one of these professionals on a lake for 3 days of practice and 3 days for a tournament, they're going to figure it out at some point. Like, it's going to happen. So it's all mindset. That's what I think the grinders are.
Did you notice that right when you first made the tour, John? Like, you come in, you think you'd had a decent day, and you're middle lower of the pack because everyone has a decent day all the time, regardless of where the fishery is.
Yeah, I think there's 2 thoughts for me on this. Is one is when I first started fishing the tour, we fished 3 or 4 events in the fall every year for the first like 5 or 6 years, really until the season flipped to where our season started after the first of the year. That's when it became like, spring, summer tournament trail. So we fished a lot of like, fall, early winter tournaments. And a lot of those are grinders, just like you guys had last week at Lake of the Ozarks, man. So I love those tournaments. I did well typically in those kind of tournaments. So I had to like do well in those fall tournaments to kind of carry me through the spring banger tournaments when everybody could go smash them. But I like getting a little bit of information and then having to like run with it. And that's, I love the Sabine. I think that's kind of one of those places. Like you got to get little bits of information, like you're getting 3-4 keeper bites a day on a good practice day in 13 hours. And you have to kind of make that work and be able to read water. I feel like a little bit faster. So that's kind of the big thing for me on that.
I've talked with Rick Clunn about this in the past. Typically the conversation starts out about poker and then but he's mentioned this in interviews. I need to get him on to talk about this. It actually was, he was talking about, another angler, but long story short, he was basically, if you look at his stats, Rick Clunn was really good at grinding out limits, especially when there was like 7, 9, 15 fish limits, to where like if you could put keepers on, this sounds weird, if you could put keepers on the stringer, you could catch it. They were a lot of tournaments that were also in the fall on tough bodies of water with 200 plus boats. So you look at like those tournaments back in, the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s, like that's what Rick Clunn did for 30 years to become the GOAT at this thing.
Yeah.
I think Ohio River Classics and stuff.
Yep. James River, Arkansas River. Like that's what he's good at. And it's just catching fish when other people are struggling just to get a bite, and he's out there catching 15, 20 keepers, and some people aren't even getting a bite.
We'll have to get him on. I would assume. I know Nick Brown's a fairly common name. I would assume if you owe Nick Brown $3, that's the Nick Brown that is in first place that won at Lake of the Ozarks. So is that a different Nick Brown?
No, I owe him $5 actually.
What do you owe Nick Brown $5 for?
He paid my launch fee on day 3 of practice, so it's $5.
Did he just win $100,000?
He did. I didn't know. I was hoping he'd forget about it after he won $100,000.
I owe Vouster $7 because I took like 1,000 yen or 10,000 yen from him or whatever.
Yeah.
I owe him like $7.40.
Yeah.
So, do you get to fish much in the fall, John?
I do occasionally. About 2 years ago, I fished a whole local circuit here, and that's probably the most that I've fished in the fall in a handful of years. But I mean, I get out like a couple times a month, typically in the fall. Not a ton.
And then real quick, and then we'll get into Japan. You have been a world traveler as well. Didn't you just get back did you go to the ASA summit this year out in California?
I did. Yep, sure did.
Talk a little bit just briefly about what the ASA is, why that's important, that type of thing.
So the ASA is the American Sport Fishing Association. They're the organization that runs the ICAST event in Orlando every year. But their primary function is to watch after the best interest of the entire sport fishing industry, salt and freshwater. And they're based in Alexandria, Virginia, because a big part of what they do is that they lobby with the U.S. government, with Congress, Senate, all those politicians and the lobbyists and so forth, to make sure that we have clean water and we have access to that water to fish. So that is their overriding principle and what they're after. And they're a very, very well run organization, and they do a good job for it. And a lot of it goes unnoticed. So it kind of frustrates me a little bit when I see bigger companies in the fishing industry that are not participating in the ASA. It's kind of frustrating. Like if there's a lead ban situation going on in a state, man, ASA's all over that. They're fighting like crazy. They're talking to the politician, explaining to them that there's not any good sufficient evidence that supports banning any kind of lead fishing tackle. I mean, we all want
loons are out there having a freaking lead stir fry.
Yeah, but they're worried about one split shot that got into a loon's gullet 17 years ago, and it didn't even cause any harm to the loon. So they kind of point that stuff out. It's cool.
Didn't a couple other anglers go? Did Kyle Patrick go this year?
He did not. I think he went to he had a friend's
wedding.
Went
last year or something. I know he's been to it in the past, I think.
Kyle has not been to it. Ken Duke is the one that really pushes a lot of the anglers to go. Gary Klein has been in the past. Brent Chapman has gone. He didn't go this year, but he went the year before. So there's been a few different anglers, but the fishing lure company side is why I go.
I got you. All right, we're gonna take a real quick break. We're gonna reset, and when we come back, all things Sunline and Japan. It's been, how long has it been since our trip? 3 weeks.
It has been.
Yeah, probably 3.
2.5 weeks. Yeah.
Holy cow! It's time is crazy.
3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks.
I think we got back on the 6th.
We got, what is it still October?
Yep.
Yeah, it's still October.
3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Have any of you used any of the weird like that's just the normal dice? Has any of you guys we'll get into this. I want to know if anyone's broken out like the crazy stuff, because I have found we'll talk about this. I've had a difficult time opening packages.
Yeah,
like I've gone,
agree.
I'm gonna try this, and then I look at it and I'm like, but I don't know if I want to open that package. Like, it looks kind of cool in there, and I like showing my friends, and I like just having it. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we come back. It's Sunline Japan show. Kyle Welcher, John Cruz, October 28th. BTL will be back right after this.
Sunline.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Monday. So, yeah. Kyle, more specifically on this. John, I don't know. I feel like, Kyle, you're more of like a flipper and a pitcher, whereas John is more of a multi-caster. Is that a fair assessment? Like, if I'm going to pick between you two, like, yep. If I'm going to pick a flipper, I'm going to pick Kyle over John. Not saying that John's not good at flipping. I'm just saying that. I say that to say this. I did a top 10 show of the top 10 live scopers going today in professional fishing. I had Alton Jr., I had Pete Robbins, and I had Jody White. Yeah. A lot of good looks. I want to do a top 10 flippers going today. Not of all time. I'm talking about current flippers on tour right now. And I mentioned that because I saw Christy right there and he was flipping. Yep. And I think that would be an old school show. I want you to be on that panel, Kyle, because we had Alton Jones Jr. on the panel and he was like number 3 I think you'll be on that list, but I want you to be a part of that show. Are you good on that, Kyle?
Yeah, I would do it. I don't know if I'd be in the top 10 of current flippers.
Would you put him in the top 10, John?
He'd be in consideration for sure, I think.
I wouldn't have you, but I've had you on like 4 shows recently, John.
I don't think you can be in the top 10 of a technique unless you've like one doing it, you know? That's kind of the problem.
Criteria.
Yeah.
Didn't you win Angler of the Year as partially? I mean, wasn't part of your Angler of the Year due to flipping?
Yeah, I did catch quite a few flipping, quite a few on the frog, swim jig.
That's a win, but I want to do just a grimy, down and dirty. It's the forgotten technique now. Everyone's out shaking a minnow, throwing a spin rod. I want to do the top 10 flippers, not flippers and pitchers, flippers. Like there's a fish right there, and he's one crank and he's in the boat.
I'm definitely out on that because I pitch like 99.9% of the time, technically.
Are there any flippers going anymore?
I don't think so. Is anybody flipping, John? Anybody like legit flipping, pulling the line?
We haven't been to like a punching lake where you can do that in about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I don't.
The last one I remember is when we fished in the fall and we were at Gunnersville and you could punch there. That's about the last one I remember.
John, it used to be like 2 or 3 a year.
Yep.
That was
scheduled.
Yeah, and like everywhere we go, they're spawning their own bait balls now. Like that's just, it just is what it is.
What would be the ideal month? Like when is the best time to flip? Like fish is right there. Have to be flooded post spawn?
Flooded immediate post spawn, probably. Yeah.
Or a lake that's got stuff to actually.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the last Elite Series, even do an NPFL where like there was a legit flipping bite.
There's always one on Champlain. It just gets, some people make a check doing it. You can't beat the smallmouth. That's the problem. But every time we go to Champlain, there's a few people that get a check just straight flipping. And they
swinging back a little bit to where it's playing now. So we'll see how that continues.
Anyway, I'm interested.
Not this year. Not this coming year, though.
No. I know what knot's not good for flipping. Now I'm paranoid. I got one more tournament coming up this year, and I've been trying to do that knot that you tie, Kyle, because now after we went to the Sunline factory and I saw the knot strength, I'm exceptionally paranoid with the Palomar on the fluorocarbon. But I also don't want to change knots that I've been tying for 20 years. You talk about how everything's mental. I'm an emotional wreck when it comes to what knot I'm going to tie in this tournament next week on grade.
Well, you saw what my San Diego Jam did when I went down to 3 wraps. That sucker came through for me.
And then we all got beat by a uni somehow, which I want that knot tested for steroids or something, because that's inconceivable. Makes no sense.
All right, let's get into this. I was just a little bit of an overview. We went to Japan. Mike Vouster, who's the connection between Japan, Sunline Japan, and Sunline America. He likes to work in the shadows. He's not big on getting on podcasts. But good dude. Everyone in the industry knows him. I just left him out of this one. I could have probably badgered him into jumping on, but he's probably on a treadmill listening to this right now. He invites a couple different guys that are on the Sunline team every year, right, to go. So like Rojas has been, not even every year. It hasn't been in like 5 or 6 years. It was every year before COVID, right? I think
he sometimes he takes his reps. I know that Carl and some of the other reps have been that work for him.
But the whole thing was to go over to where all of the Sunline is manufactured except for the braided line, and actually see the process of how it was done, interact with the Sunline reps over there, the guys there, and then culture, experience, tackle shop, the whole 9 yards. Kyle, you had never been to Japan before. Were you a little nervous? What were you expecting kind of going into this when you were asked if you'd like to be a part of this trip?
I wasn't really nervous. I was just excited. Like, we were going to a different country besides Japan, I'd have probably been a little bit nervous, but going to Japan was, especially with Vouster, like I felt I wasn't nervous at all. I was just excited to go there and see it. And going to a line factory, that's probably like one of the main reasons I would have wanted to go, because we got to test knots and we got to test the abrasion on lines and all that type of stuff. Like, I was just super excited about, the things I could learn that would help me. So I wasn't really nervous. I mean, some of the food made me nervous, I'll tell you that. But other than that, I wasn't, really nervous to go. The flight was a little bit weird, being on a tin can for 14 hours. But other than that, nothing was bad.
John, same question. I know we talked, you were on the show, and if you have questions about like line and which one to use and all that, the show that I did with John before is the show that you need to go watch. You talk about crank FC versus shooter versus sniper and different types of braid. Like, that's a really good line show to go watch. So go watch that one from last month. But your initial thoughts when you were asked if you wanted to head over?
I was the only thing I was worried about is that I couldn't take I was not going to take my family, or my wife or my family as a whole. So that was the only inhibition I had about it. But like it's a bucket list trip. I've been dying to go. The fact that we got to go to the Sunline factory and really go into the weeds on how the line was made and how they do everything, was just icing on the cake, man. It was amazing.
One of the things that we did was we spent 3 days at Sunline. I'm curious, the factory portion of it, like where the line was made, I was shocked at how mellow, and I mean, I knew it would be well run because it's Sunline Japan, but it was very, like, everything was perfect. You see, I don't know how to vocalize what I'm trying to say, but you walk in and you think factory and you see Sunline on all the shelves and you think it's going to be loud and you think it's going to be busy and you think there's going to be people everywhere, but it was so controlled, so clean, so exact. Like, everyone was just like super dialed in. Did you guys get that vibe too? Like, when you walked into the main one, you were like, whoa, this is like a sterile environment in here. Like, it was like they were making like a medical facility.
Yeah. And then as soon as we walk in, everybody's doing like calisthenics, to get the morning started. And I'm like, we need this practice in America. But I agree 100%. Like, you think about a factory, you think about like the hustle and bustle and everybody running around, yelling at each other. It wasn't like that at all. And it was moving very efficiently. And the stuff was moving quickly. Just everybody was like, it was like you said, it's very, very controlled. So it was cool. Definitely cool.
Yeah, it was cool for me too, Matt, because I had been to the Berkeley facility in Spirit Lake, probably 18 years ago, somewhere in that range. And so I really kind of had seen how line is made before. But the difference is that facility is way bigger. Sunline is way bigger. It is way more technologically advanced, I feel like. They do so many things. Like, you're showing the video here of when we were kind of walking through. This is the finishing room when they put in the finish on the lines. Just absolutely fascinating. A lot of trade secrets they did not want to let out. So we were a little bit limited on some of the places we could go to show everybody what goes on. But I was really kind of blown away by that, and the fact that they make 300 tons of line per year was crazy.
Kyle, did you know what it looked like when it went from pellet form to line form? Because it did not occur to me. I didn't have any concept of how that went down. Like, I figured I didn't know. Like, were you kind of shocked at like, holy cow, it starts down here and then a half mile this way, it's like done, and how exact everything was and how many different processes one spool of line goes through?
Yeah, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I definitely was not expecting that. And it, like you said, it's melted down from pellets and then stretched to the correct diameter. And they get the diameter perfect every single time. Like, it's unbelievable that they know the exact amount of tension. I don't know if I like assumed it was like shot out of a tube or something, but like I did not know it was going to be like that at all. And it's definitely weird. Like you wouldn't think it'd go from pellets to stretch to the perfect diameter to make like 22-pound tests and then finish, but they do it all day, every day. So I did not expect it to be like that at all.
You mentioned it before, and I do want to bring this in. This is John. You've dropped 3 videos on the Japan trip on the John Cruise Fishing YouTube channel. You can go back. I'll link them in the YouTube description. And then Kyle, are you going to drop one too?
Yeah, it should be in probably like a week and a half.
You just been busy trying to win an Angler of the Year.
Trying, yeah.
Do you get anything if you win that?
Yeah, you get to, I think it's 25 grand and then entries paid for next year.
Dang.
Oh, that ain't bad.
No, not bad at all. It's worth winning for sure.
Yeah. This was the room you talked about it. We did a BTL live from there. You can go back. We did a knot contest, knot strength and line contest. That was really cool. So I'll link that and it'll kind of tie it all together. But this is the room where all of the testing goes down. And I was a little bit, like when you walk into this room, I'm like, oh, it's small. It's kind of like, this is where all the line gets tested. But what I thought afterwards was like these machines, like right here, there's like not other machines in the world that can do that. Like that's like kind of like some of the only machines that like can test braking strength, right? So it's just like a basic room with like 4 of these machines in it. But that was like so cool to be able to test all the braking strength and like burning knots and wraps and wetting the leaders and stuff. Like that's where you guys were like really in heaven. It seemed like Kyle wanted to like camp in that room.
I would have for sure. Like that's one of the main reasons I went. So I wanted to get my money's worth over there.
That was very interesting. And Kyle and I also both tied the best FG knots for the record.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised at how weak doing certain things to your line can make the line. Like based on you either have line, like as far as burning it, tying a weak knot, not tying it properly, overlapping it, all of it is human error that I feel oftentimes gets blamed on line.
100%. And like, one tip for the people at home is if you remember, Matt, the triple granny did better than a clinch knot. So that kind of blew my mind that you could tie a triple granny knot and it does better than a clinch, which a lot of people still tie a clinch, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the one thing that blew my mind about the knot tying deal was going from, as I tie the San Diego Jam knot. Yeah. That's the knot I've tied for 15 plus years. We tested it with 4 wraps, and then we tested it with 3 wraps, and it was like 20% stronger with three wraps versus 4. So that's altered the way that I've going to be tying knots going forward.
Right, and I guess that's just from burning it. Like that's all it can be from is more wraps. It makes it burn more right above the knot.
Something's that you don't know. That's just the result, man. I love it.
I'm sure those machines are like millions and millions of dollars. That would be like very helpful to have that thing in your house.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I would be testing all day long. I'd be testing everything.
So I'm going to pause it right there. You can see it right there. Like that is where like all those different ones are like the strength of the line before it broke. Yeah, it was really cool because all of that is like automatically input into the computer, so you can do it over and over and over again and get it dialed in. And that's part of why Sunline. So these people would actually, and I'm sure you talk about this, John. They're measuring the diameter of the line, and then they're measuring the braking strength of the line on every single spool that goes out of that factory, which I didn't know because I honestly have thought I got a bad spool, and I've called and they're like, you may have, send it back in. We'll test it. But after seeing it and doing it, I feel like an idiot for saying I've had a bad spool of line because it's 100% something I have done to that line after seeing what that line goes through.
Could be like your uni to uni knot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. But is that not true? Like, how many times do you hear people say, "I got a bad spool of line," and
you're like,
I think it's like insane the percentage of line, because every spool is tested. I don't know how much as far as when it comes to other brands, if every spool is tested or not, but these people's full-time job, all these boxes right here are spools of line that are about to get tested by these people and then go out.
You know, the other part that I learned as well when we were there was the fact that they fluorocarbon it is kind of like almost impermeable to environmental conditions. So, you know, cold conditions, warm conditions, sunshine, you know, being wet and then dry and wet and dry, none of that truly affects fluorocarbon's breaking strength, stretch, any of that kind of stuff. That really does not affect any of that. And I always thought that, oh, well, all these different environmental factors might make my line weaker, you know, over a year or two. And then maybe that's why I quote unquote, maybe have a spool that's not as strong, or a quote unquote bad spool. After seeing the R&D and the testing, bad spools, I'm not saying never, but very, 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 very unlikely to happen with the way Sunline does things. And then to learn that and saw the machine where they do all of that testing, and then they test it again to see if cold for 3 weeks actually did anything, or warm temperatures, hot arid temperatures did anything to fluorocarbon. It really doesn't. So that just gives me even more confidence in the line.
Yep. How do you actually store yours, Kyle?
So I have one, like at my house, my line is actually stored inside, and I have it in totes, fluorocarbon braid, I have everything organized, but I have kept everything inside just because I didn't want it to be in my garage and actually fluctuate in temperature. But I know now that you definitely don't have to do that. But it is still in my house right now. But whenever I'm on the road, I have a big spooling buddy that holds like 15 spools of line. I keep that in the truck, and then I have an extra Sunline red bag with line head on it, the gold line head on it, that I keep extra line in. So that's how I travel with it. But I do store everything inside my house, and I'll probably stop doing that pretty quick, because my son likes climbing on it and, you know, throwing it around the house. So I gotta put that out in the garage. How do you store yours, John?
I keep mine in the in my garage, which is actually temperature controlled. So it's like the double whammy. So yeah, when we get to where we're going, I just have the habit of taking my line out of the truck and putting it in the house where we're staying to just to keep it a little bit protected. Like Kyle said, now I know that's really not necessary to do, but I'll probably still do it.
I do the same thing. As soon as I get somewhere and I check in, I take it right inside.
Yeah. Temperature control. Missile must be doing well to heat that whole outbuilding out there, huh, John? So I say that I do the totes, but then I also do these things. I'm sure you guys have these things. Do you guys use these things?
Yeah.
Keep all my leaders in there on the boat. Boat.
So I carry 3 of these with me to all of the opens, and I take from my totes out in the garage. I have one that's shooter. I have one that's sniper and FC crank, and I have one that is all of my braid. So I have 3 of those. So I know if I have 3, I can either toss them in the boat, which I do during practice a lot of the time, if I think I'm going to have to spool up something different in practice. And then during the tournament, I take them out. But these things have been a lifesaver for me, especially because I am not good at organization. And literally they fit in there. You can make it, and they go everywhere with me. And since we are talking about Sunline, I want to make sure I get this right. So if you spend $100 at sunlineamerica.com, you get a free one of these right now. So that's a couple spools. I've got like 3 or 4 of these things, and I freaking dig them. So, all right. Let's talk about what Sunline makes. Did either of you have any idea that they make like 80 or 90 different types of line? Because I was blown away when I got there.
I think, I'm not trying to correct you, but I think there was almost 300 on that wall, because I counted them while we was in one of the meetings, and it was like there was 20 on one row, and there was like 14 rows. So I think there was like over 200 lines on that wall, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of mind blowing. I asked Bouster, I was like, have you ever tried to make a 6-strand braid? And they went and got one off the wall. I was like, yeah, we have one. So it's like almost anything that you could think of that you would want to, have. They're like, yeah, we thought that 12 years ago. It's over there,
It was kind of mind blowing at all the different
this wall. One second.
The different things they had. It was wild.
Is the wall in this video, John?
Yes.
It is. Hold on.
It should be on the tour video. It was one of the transition videos, I believe.
Okay.
I think it's towards the end.
You can go watch how fishing line is made towards the end. Did you have any idea, John, that it was like that? I mean,
I knew they made a bunch. I was thinking, like you said, I was thinking like 60 or 80 because I knew that, we have 15, 20 in the U.S. And I knew they had even more at home in Japan. And then all of a sudden, there's the wall right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And most of it is for uni fishing, which is like a saltwater fish that's become very popular that they're catching, and IU fishing.
Squids.
And squid. Just talk about it here. I got to get that magazine. I showed it yesterday on the show, but just explain IU fishing to the people, Kyle.
So I don't really understand it, but so basically an IU is a very sought after fish in Japan, and it likes to sit on current break eddies on the rocks. Yes, it's some type of a trout, but it sits in a current break on top of a rock. And basically you foul hook an IU and put a straw inside it and then hang a hook off of it. And whenever you cast your IU out close to a rock, your decoy IU will run over there and fight the IU that's on top of the current break. And it'll actually foul hook it, and then you reel them both in, and that's how you catch, your IU. So you take an IU as a decoy, hook it with a hooked treble hook hanging on, and then he fights a wild IU, and then you catch them both. So you can see right there, that dude has two of them. So it's unbelievable.
Matt was considered the most high-end,
prestigious fish.
Yeah, this is like dry fly trout fishing in America is kind of how I got it. Like the guys who if you show up with like a night crawler and a spinning rod, kick your ass, like in Montana.
And they all wear these gloves. If you
there you go.
I wear them every day. I don't know if y'all don't do that, but these are the kind of gloves they wear because they're all dialed out. The rods cost like $20,000 and $30,000. It was kind of crazy to hear the whole situation. And the part that is like that here, they're all dialed up. Look, full shirt, gloves, everything. And they said that like a bunch of people die every year because they get sucked down the current in deeper water, or they slip and fall in their fancy outfits. Yeah, there they are.
And then there's the diagram of how you snag your
Matt, you were insistent that there was a contingent of the IU crowd that would just purchase extra decoys and then say that they had a phenomenal day on the water. And
that's what I'm saying. So when you go to, when we ask how this went down, this blew my mind. So when you go to the IU store, I guess there's a guy who deals in IUs, and you buy one, and that's your first.
You start with two.
Yeah, you
start with two. That's your decoy IU. Yep. So then, as you catch them, then the one you go from the bait shop goes into your creel, and then the one you just caught becomes your decoy, and then so on and so forth. So they just end up screwing their buddy over and over and over again until you have a satchel full of IU. Yep. But I mean, if you're a sucky IU fisherman, and I think they were like $4 or $5 a piece, is what the guy said, right? Like when you go there,
something like that.
How much?
$10 a piece.
$10 a piece. Are you not tempted to just go buy 25 IU?
Dude, they were not having any of that conversation. They didn't want to hear it.
They said the IU rods were like $2,100, or more. So I mean, you could just buy, like Matt said, 12 decoys, just take them home and eat them, and you'd be good. I had a little bit of promise with IU fishing when they said they catch them on jerk baits, and then they explained that they also snag them with the jerk baits too. So I was like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah,
I just know the trout around here, they love a jerk bait, and I'm sure that those ones will probably eat them too, but it's not the same, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, so on the back is a picture of how they do the jerk bait, but they do what is that, like a drop teaser hook instead of like the treble hooks on the jerk baits?
I might have to try that. Yeah.
It's the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. So
I'm not going to lie.
Definitely still snagged.
That's the only way to catch them. They don't need anything.
Yeah.
Like, look at this IU on the bottom. He's like, what the hell? Look at that treble hook. That's like, bam. I mean, that's the cover of the magazine.
Harpoon.
And this was one of the most expensive things that I bought in Japan. This was like a $20 IU magazine that comes out every single month. I'm shocked no one else did. Like, look, they literally have like a style section in here.
Do you have the other magazine that you bought?
I'm not showing that one. I'm not showing that one on there. But yeah, so the IU
cartoon on the back. That's why you bought it.
It did. Yeah. That's the IU. That looks exactly like the Gancraft Jointed Claw 178 SS.
It does.
I have one exactly like that in that color. So that was cool. While we're talking about fishing, and then we'll take our final break of the show. What did you guys think about fishing in Japan? It's cool regardless of how old you are. If you're a fish head and you have the opportunity to go fishing, pretty much it started out as we were going to catch some of the mystery fish next to where we were. We didn't know that it was saltwater or that they were brim or that it was illegal to fish there. But that was our game plan. And then the guys at Sunline were like, oh, these guys want to catch a fish, and made it happen. I thought that whole experience, even though I did not catch one, you guys did, was fantastic.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was very appreciative that, the management from Sunline kind of made that happen. That was a bucket list for all of us, I believe, to fish in Japan. And even though we only got to catch, some small ones, it was still really, really cool. And I would have loved to have been able to like rent a boat and go out there and explore. Obviously we were on a time crunch, but it was definitely cool to be able to fish over there and borrow equipment from some of the guys who work at Sunline. I mean, I appreciate everything they did for us.
It was good equipment though.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
How many did you catch, John? You caught like 5 or 6, didn't you?
I caught 1 at the first place we went, and then 3 at the next place that we went. And it was cool. The first place we went, the president of Sunline and one of the senior vice presidents came with us and hung out and was taking pictures, and that was really cool as well. Like they took the 45-minute drive out to the lake to go with us.
I did not know that there were so many of the employees that worked at Sunline that were diehard bass fishermen. Like they were decked out. Like we used their tackle. It was all what you would expect. Like I think I was throwing a Ned head on like a 6'3" ultralight with 4-pound test metered braid and a high-end Shimano. Like it was what I expected.
Well,
it was.
We're all talking about going fishing and we're starting to get rods ready and stuff. And we just left like a meeting, and then we turn around and all the Sunline employees are like decked out in the gloves and the pants and the vests. And I'm like, we are underprepared for this. Like we're about to get our butt kicked.
Yeah. One of the employees, we borrowed most of his equipment at Yugo. He had been getting ready all morning for us to go out. He had been working on his tackle and his rods all morning out in the parking lot, and he had his van, his Scooby-Doo van, all decked out with the rods and the tackle. It was money. It was money. He was a big part of why we actually caught something.
How would you? I've been trying to with my buddies to describe. Like they're like, well, what are the lakes like, or what was it like? Like, how would you describe it in terms of like someone in America who's fished but obviously hasn't been to Japan? How would you describe those 2 lakes that we went to?
I would just call them highland reservoirs. Like that's what they look like to me. It was just straight highland, rocky, log jams, like it looks like it floods a lot. Looks like it's got some current. Like it was just a straight Highland reservoir to me.
Same, John.
I agree 100%. Yeah, that's exactly what the fish. A lot of the fish were suspended out on bait, I think, which would have made them difficult to catch off the bank. And then some of the other, some of the areas that we went are fairly highly pressured because there was fishermen all over the place at both places we went.
One more thing about the Sunline factory and then we'll. Like I said, take a quick break and then get into the baits. You guys good on that? You good time wise, John?
Yes, sir.
You good, Kyle?
Yep.
All right. Was how welcoming all of the staff, all of the people that we met, everybody associated with it was, and how even though there was a massive language barrier and we had a translator, you could still like have conversations with guys over the shared passion, and I felt welcomed everywhere I went. That was really cool to me. There was never like a time where I never felt 100% comfortable and welcomed by anybody that we came across, and we talked to a lot of people. You guys kind of that same mindset as well?
I agree 100%. Like we couldn't understand. Like there was one time we went to a restaurant and they handed us a menu and they said, here, I think it was a beer menu, and they handed us the menu and I was like, yeah, but we can't order from this, but the language barrier was there, but everybody was super, super friendly, I felt extremely welcome. Like you said, like they kind of made us a priority too much of a priority while we was there almost, but it was, I'm very appreciative of them and what they did.
Yeah, a lot of the customs were just really, really cool to see in person and to kind of experience. Like with Sunline, typically when you go visit, you bring a gift, and we each brought a gift there and then when you leave at the end of the day, like a big portion of the people that worked there came out. So there was like 20 and 30 people when we would leave at the end of the day would come out and all wave goodbye to us as we were leaving. That part was really cool. But Kyle and I got there a little bit earlier. You and Welcher had your flights delayed a little bit. So Kyle and I said, you know what? We just dropped our stuff off at the hotel. We jumped on the train. We had to figure out how to get a ticket. And he and I just took a train into Tokyo and got off at some exit. We just we'll go to the end of this line and just get off. Well, we got off. We were just in the middle of Tokyo. It was not really a touristy area. We got out and walked around and, stopped at a McDonald's, and we stopped at where else did we stop before we went to that one bar with the darts?
We went to a different restaurant first, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we went and played darts and pool. Then we went to another restaurant. But everywhere we went, and there was no English there, none. But it was, I never felt unsafe or.
How did you guys even get tickets after being on that train system numerous times during our bait excursions? How did you know where the hell you were going?
We just picked a place on the map, and I feel like we kind of got lucky a little. As far as where we picked, we just put it somewhere on the map, and John bought me a ticket. Appreciate that.
I will say, once Welcher realized that you guys were not joking and had indeed taken the train into Tokyo, he was legitimately concerned about your ability. Like he was like, oh yeah, there's no way they would do that, they're joking. And then once he found out you had, he was like, I may have just lost 2/3 of the contingent that I brought. I know I saw Brett Chapman's story, I think he got stranded over there. He got turned around on the trains and missed his flight back.
Oh my God, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
And he was with some people that were, over there full time. Like his son's been spending a whole semester.
That Instagram account, was it Bass Fishing Japan, who was like, hey, if you guys need any help, and I was like, we're hooked up through Sunline. Got them hooked up with Matt Becker and I think the Chapmans and stuff, and they were there the next week and kind of showed them some of the same tackle stores that we went to, and then a couple different ones. Speaking of tackle, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into some of the crazy stuff that you can buy at 24-hour tackle stores in Japan. Like this thing, like you walk in, it's open 24/7, 365 for whatever you want. Like the tackle store never closes. It's wild. It's BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made.
This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm gonna talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. You know, I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
Beatdown is efficient.
Rock solid.
100% American made.
This thing is super tough. I mean, this thing is not going anywhere.
I've ran the Beatdown double stack from Florida all the way up to New York. And the one thing that I know is when I get to my fishing destination, I never have to worry about issues with my graph mount.
Your options are endless with these mounts, but they're steady, they're solid. These are the most reliable mounts on the market, and you can't go wrong with the Beatdown.
When you're ready to hit the water, Denali Fishing has you covered. Regardless of your skill level, from beginner all the way up to tournament pro, Denali has rods, reels, and tungsten to get the job done. Check them out at denalifishing.com.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on high, Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, BTL. On a Monday, we have reached the tackle portion of the show, which I'm sure a lot of people were looking forward to. John, I'll start with you. Explain in the day and a half that you had to go through the 3 tackle shops that we went to, Japanese bass fishing tackle in a nutshell.
So it is a whole different world as far as I'm concerned. They take their fishing lures as almost like as an art form, to where I feel like that in the U.S. we're definitely more function oriented. I mean, just some of the way they do the packaging, the way they do the colors. Like there's no generic looking blackback chartreuse sides. Typically, I mean, everything is very realistic. Even the colors that are kind of brighter, they're very realistic. So I think that there is a contingent, from what I've been told, of Japanese anglers that buy the Japanese tackle just to keep it and collect. And then they have their other stuff that they fish with. But man, it's all super intricate and neat. And I'll show you one of the cool things that I found. I'm not showing you a lot, to be honest with you. I'm just going to kind of keep it.
You already gave away all the secret minnows. That's okay. Just go ahead and show it all, yeah. John. You did the Japanese giveaway thing, and it was all the secret minnows that I was trying to keep under wraps.
Yeah, it was Valster's great suggestion. And then I had some serious buyer's remorse packing that up and shipping it out to the guy that wanted it. He was very appreciative.
All right, hit me. What do we?
The little Picro 68 is cool, man. Look at this thing. It's got a bill on the top of it, and it's like, it's made for mid strolling kind of thing. They're not available in the U.S. They're hard to get, but you can put a little, you can put weight on there if you want. It stays real high in the water column.
You reel it or twitch it?
You reel it. you reel it. It's like a spy bait with no blades, and just it's made for mid strolling. I thought that was really cool. There's if people didn't know, Evergreen has an entire line in Japan of jackhammers. This is a tungsten one. This is my favorite Japan color. It's got some pink in it. I really like that deal. So I snagged some of these, so I didn't have to pay the shipping to get them over here. Well, that's really like the only Japanese color. They have straight black and a bunch of other different colors than we have here.
That was like $13 too, instead of like the tungsten half-ounce Japan only color.
They were half the price. They were probably half the price of what we pay here. And then like the drift crab mini, Kyoya's been kicking our butt on this thing.
How is he rigging that?
I think he just rigs it like all I see is
skewers it right through the shell.
Just like a hook in it, or it's on a drop shot, one or the other.
Is there actual video footage of him catching them on it, or is he just did he just put one on and then come in and be like, oh yeah, crab, and then they're going back to the hotel room at night going, these dumb Americans think I'm catching them on this stupid crab.
The only thing that I've ever seen on his boat are crabs, the dice, and jig heads. He will not put the minnow on the jig head for anybody to ever see.
Yeah, he's probably just using a 5-inch green pumpkin Cinco.
Could be, but I haven't seen it. I've seen some dead soldiers in the floor of his boat that are minnows.
Yeah, interesting. As a bait shop owner, as an Elite Series angler, as a gear junkie,
also got this Tiny Clash. This is like beautiful.
That was probably the find of the trip, right?
It as far as like how pretty it is, this is one of the prettiest Tiny Clashes. This is the DRT Tiny Clash. For the record, I didn't catch a single bass on a Clash or Tiny Clash this year, but they're really, really cool baits. It is not a glide bait. It is more like a crankbait glide bait hybrid thing. There's like a little market for it. But they're really hard to find. I don't care who you are or where you are. They're really hard to find. Last time I know, McKee Outdoors actually had a few.
What was that color? Sean wants to know.
Of the Tiny Clash, the color is called Andy. And there's the price tag from Sansui. And that's how much it was. It was 6,400 yen.
Divided by 144.
Yeah, which was not very much for a DRT Tiny Clash.
And
this is the only one they had. I would have bought, if they had 10, I probably would have bought them all.
As an observer, I feel like, Kyle, you were a bit more discerning as to what went in the basket than John. John seemed to take a little bit more of the seek and destroy method. You seemed to be a little bit more analytical. I took it as a challenge to
fill the basket, Matt. Took it as a challenge.
That was the challenge that you won.
He succeeded. He definitely succeeded.
What did you keep saying, Kyle? Like, you are looking for...
If it ain't going to fill a hole.
Yes, explain that. I thought that was fascinating.
So I wanted to find baits that whenever I saw them, I knew what application I would use them for, like instantly. I didn't want to just buy something that it looks cool or whatever. Like, I wanted to find baits where I knew what I've been needing something to fish in this certain situation. And whenever I saw something like that, I bought it. So I ended up getting quite a few hard baits, and I got, a bunch of soft baits also. But that's what I wanted. I wanted unique things that I felt like actually fit a situation. And that first bait that John showed, I don't even know the name of it, but I got 2 of them. I've already caught a bunch of bass on that because it does fish really good through a different depth zone than, a lot of other baits do. So that was one of the ones that, I saw instantly, and I was like, yeah, that's gonna catch them whenever the fish are in a certain situation. So I've actually already reordered twice from Japan since we got back from the trip. Yeah, I have.
Could have just ordered. You just filled up the suitcase.
I should have, but a lot of the stuff I did buy all that they had in a couple of things, and then I had to order from different tackle shops. But I kind of expected there to be more kind of weird homemade stuff at a lot of the tackle shops, and then it was a lot of the big Japanese brands, which are cool and really good, but I kind of expected more kind of homemade weird baits. to be at the tackle shops.
And I think that there are some tackle shops that are like that. I think there's a tackle shop. We didn't go to this one, but it's like used baits. So like if you have a tiny clash and you want to trade it, you can come in and literally like trade it in and put it towards the purchase of a new bait. And then that goes on like the tackle wall. I think there's some tackle stores that have literally like just a wall of used baits that you can go pick up and look and stuff like that. I feel like, I don't know, how would you describe that? I feel like we went to kind of one like kind of a one-off mom and pop store, very specialty. We went to one big box retailer, and then we went to the Bun. Which was the one?
They call it Bang Bang, but it's spelled Bun. But
Bun. That was the 24-hour one, right?
Yeah.
And then what was the one the last one that we went to that was in like their version of
that was
like a Walmart?
No, yeah.
What was that?
Bun was the last one. The second to last one was the 24-hour one.
Yeah.
What was that called?
I don't have I've got the receipts to prove
that one had stuff, but that last one that we went to that was in like the Japanese like Walmart type store.
It was like in a Japanese mall, almost.
Strip mall.
Yeah.
All indoors. That one was nuts.
Yeah, that was the one that got the most money from all of us, because they had the cool baits, but they also had a good stock of them, so we were all able to get a lot of the baits that we were interested in.
Nick is saying, should I not be dropping the shop names? Is that like frowned upon? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Not all of them you can order. Not all of them you can order online from. So it's not like we're giving a whole lot away. There's only a handful of places you can order from, from the US, you can order internationally from.
I tried to order from Bun, and it was, I couldn't figure out how.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Were either or both of you impressed with their selection of detail-oriented terminal tackle and hooks? Because that blew my mind. I've never walked in a place that had so many different hooks or entire rows of like very specialty terminal tackle.
And all the shops were very well lit as well. They were very clean or very organized. And they were very well lit. Like the presentation was fantastic. And the Sunline rep is the one that knew these shops and thought that they would be good for us. So he's the one that kind of like set up all these visits. And he took us to, I think, 2 of the 3 shops while we were there. So it was, appreciate him doing that.
Soft plastic wise, Kyle, I had a very difficult time trying to figure out like what is worth buying soft plastic wise, because like you use it and it's gone. So like, do I buy hard baits that I don't know if I'll ever tie on, or do I buy soft plastics that I know I'll 100% use, but once I use them, then they're gone and I don't know if I can get them? And then do I get the weird stuff that I don't really know how to rig it or what its application for, but I don't want to like miss out on the next Cinco or the next Sluggo or the next Minnow. But then I also want to buy stuff that I know I'm going to use because it fills that whole like a minnow style bait. Like I was very confused as to what needed to go in the cart, what wanted to go in the cart, and what should go in the cart.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was so many stuff that's just a little bit different over there that I felt like you almost couldn't justify, because it's just not different enough to be the next big bait, in my opinion. I mean, I've been wrong a bunch on that, but in my opinion, a lot of stuff was just barely different. But anything that I saw that was crazy different, I had to get at least a bag or 2 of them just to see.
Everything's tentacles. Everything is everything is odd shaped tentacles. Small,
Iron Man or something. Did you fish with Iron Man?
No, this one right here.
Whatever that is.
That's gotta be a gimmick, doesn't it?
What was that? What is that figure? I forgot what it is.
It's hold on a second here. It says on the front Jaburo Amber. Oh, that might be the color. 126 scale. Look at him moving. That's some good lubrication on that thing.
That's some serious action.
But I didn't know, like, do you buy one of the things that looks like a ball with little rubber spikes coming out of it? Do you buy all of them? Like, I get back and my buddy calls me up who's fishing somewhere, and he's like, oh my God, this is magic. We're catching 30 pounds on this. We can't get them. And I'm like, well, they were everywhere there, but they look just like the other thing. Like, I was so confused as to what should go in the cart and not, and then how to utilize it when it comes to the soft plastics.
Well, in my opinion, after you have the packaging, you can get more of them.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how I felt. So anything that I thought was cool, I needed to buy 1 pack of them just so that if they did catch them, I at least, I can't read the pack, but I can at least type in what it looks like, you know, and figure out what it is.
And then both of you have spent, I've literally talked to you, John, you were on the water testing some of the new baits when I called you 2 days ago, and Kyle, you were messaging like you went back and started throwing the stuff immediately. Talk about that process of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how you guys are figuring out how this is going to work into your arsenal for the upcoming season.
You know, I was just trying to find if a lot of the baits actually were unique compared to some of the other stuff that we have. You know, some of the minnow style baits were really weird, and I just kind of wanted to test and see if they did look different in the water or you know, anything that, because you visualize how they're going to look in your mind, and then you don't really know until you drop it in the water. And a lot of times you can just put it on the hook and just drop it over the side of the boat, and your preconception of how it's going to look completely is just going out the window, because it does not look how you visualize it in your head. So I just really wanted to make sure that I saw everything in the water and how it acted, so that if that situation comes up, I know kind of which bait I prefer in each situation. So some of the stuff has been kind of a dud, but some of the stuff has been really good, I feel like.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, like, one of the baits I bought is I'd drawn out something for Spro to make and sent it to him, and then I look and I'm like, oh my God, that is like really close to what I drew and sent to them. Like, I need this for research, to see what this does versus what I want, because it wasn't exactly like it, but it's the closest thing I'd ever seen. So I got some just to kind of see how it functioned, and you know, to help with other baits that I've done. But you know, even with and I found a couple minnow baits that were somewhat similar to something that I've already been working on for the last couple months. It's definitely not the same, but it has a couple features that I had never seen on a bait before. So I snagged some of those just to kind of see what they would do. And like Kyle said, one of them, not so much. The other one does what I wanted our bait to do. So I thought that was really, really cool. And you know, as far as for getting the wheels churning on bait design, they've definitely been churning with some of the stuff that I saw.
I brought 21 different minnows home. And what are you laughing at, Kyle?
That's too many, dude.
No, it's not. It's research and development.
I got the 70-cent packs, and I've been smashing them on the 70-cent one.
It was 100.
It was 100 yen. Probably not for 70 cents. I did look them up, and they were like $4 a pack instead of 70 cents a pack. But,
yeah, they're the goofiest looking ones out of all of them.
They're weird, dude, but they roll really, really good.
But this whole week, I've gone to a different lake every day that I haven't been to before in Oklahoma, just to stay in the groove. And when I've gotten on a minnow bite, I've started working through them. And like you said, like some of the ones that I was super excited didn't really do anything. And then others you just put in the water and you're like, oh my gosh, like, are my eyes deceiving me? There's no way it's doing this in the water, but it is.
Dude, there's one that I got for a jig head minnow situation, and then I had a friend of mine here locally text me the week after and sent me a link. He's like, dude, can you get me some of these? And I was like, hold on, dude, I bought a bunch of stuff. Let me look. Damn if I didn't have them in 2 different sizes. So I saw him on the water the other day, like when we talked. I gave him a couple because it's not a minnow application. It's a different application. So I'll text y'all in our little group here what that was, and how he's using it.
But that kind of goes back to what Kyle, like I was conflicted on that. Like a minnow's kind of a minnow, but I mean, when am I going to have time or when else am I going? So I kind of went all in on, I'm just going to buy every single one that I see in Japan, which I did, which I'm glad I did. I feel like I have to have probably the most diverse minnow collection. I've got to have one of the most diverse minnow collections in the country, don't I now?
I think so.
I don't know how you I mean, I know there's guys that are absolutely addicted to it who probably have more of certain ones, but like as far as if someone's catching him on a minnow, I've got the damn minnow. Overall impressions then, just to wrap it up, 3 weeks out from the trip. John, start with you. Just wrap up bass fishing in Japan, the Sunline and the tackle in a nutshell.
Man, it was so much fun. I had people ask me, even while I was in the middle of the worst part of the jet lag, about 3 days after a return, I said, dude, I would go back tomorrow. Like I had such a good time, from a bunch of different standpoints. I mean, from the culture, the camaraderie, the food, the people, there's still so much of Japan that I want to go visit, like Osaka and like Biwa, and I'll 100%. Like I thought I wanted to go back if after the first trip. Now 150%. I want to go back. It's just a matter of when am I going to go back.
Kyle?
I agree. I want to go back and explore like big time, like because even the lakes that we went to, like I would like to go see the other sides of them and just be able to fish for over there. But there's one thing that we learned in Japan that there's been some, I would say, misinformation about monofilament being more abrasion resistant on, there's been YouTube videos come up about that. And we got to thoroughly test that. And we haven't said that in this show yet, but the fluorocarbon hands down won handily over the monofilament or the nylon.
Give that away. I mean, that's the storyline of your video, Kyle.
Well, this will reach some people, maybe help some people that have heard it incorrectly. But the actual, I will post the actual test that we did on my YouTube. But I feel like people need to know that. Like the fluorocarbon is better, like correctly, like it is, But I agree with what John said. Like I want to go back. I want to take my wife back over there and go explore. It was cool. I mean, even the vending machines were just, completely different. Like everything over there was just completely different. So
they had beer in the vending machines.
Yeah, for like
in the hotel on every floor.
Yeah,
you could just put $1 in. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting. I mean, like I said, if you guys have to go, you have to go. We didn't even get into the food. But I mean, I'm pretty sure the first night they test like the hotel dinner where they had it in, that was literally a test to see like how far can we push it with these guys? What will they eat? And are they cool or not?
I failed that test.
They said Matson eat anything.
I did. But
you ate the fish you were supposed to cook, and they shut the show down and explained it to us.
They had to stop dinner because
they stopped dinner.
They ran around.
They were like, this idiot is eating the raw fish that is not. But you were supposed to cook it. Clearly, yeah, they did. They stopped the entire dinner meeting and had to explain.
Cooked it for 12 seconds though. It's kind of funny. It
was strange. Even those guys did not really like that food. I'm convinced they were not really a fan of it, except the snail thing.
I could tell when we ate something that was abnormal based on whether or not they took a picture of it as well. And there were several things we ate where I was like, this is interesting. And then you'd see a couple of the Sunline guys taking a low key picture and you're like, okay, this is not an everyday thing for them either. Like the snail was like a delicacy.
Like the Chihuahua fish that you ate.
Oh, that was, I think, a Kubera snapper cheek. It's just that they happen to have a jaw structure very similar to a domesticated dog. But the cheek meat was top 3 best fish meat I've ever eaten in my life.
It was amazing. It was it was dessert fish because they don't do like a typical dessert. So they save the lightest fish, the sweetest fish for the last dish. And that's what, after a couple meals, we figured out that like, oh, well, this is really sweet. Oh, this must be the last portion. It's the dessert fish. It's crazy.
I posted it on my story. I did not post it. I need to post it, don't I?
The Chihuahua fish.
Yeah, I think I'll show you the Chihuahua fish. I guess that was the very first night, wasn't it?
It was early in the trip.
Yeah, the other thing that I was not proud of was I thought that there were panda bears in Japan. That is a Chinese thing.
Correct. There was plenty of food for them, though. They should look to expand their domestic range.
Yeah, I'm going to show this. This was like under like a deal. So you like take off the plate or the covering and you're like, bam, snapper jaw. But I mean, I got to admit, it's a little interesting looking.
So those taquito looking things on my plate were over top of the Chihuahua jaw. So I never saw it. I just ate the cheek.
Yeah.
And then I looked at your plate and I'm like, what in the world do you have on your plate?
I was unaware that those snapper had teeth like that or a jawbone like that. Other than that, like the sushi, I mean, it was still delicious. Sushi, phenomenal. All of the other food, phenomenal. I like how simple it is. You walk into a place, and if you want to have a beer, it's not, do you want a 37 ounce, a 28 ounce? Would you like a keg? It's like a small glass, 8 to 10 ounces of beer, and they literally have like 2 types of beer. And most places just had one. It was just super dry beer. So you walk in and you say beer, and you've got a 10-ounce beer in front of you. I thought that was very handy.
Yeah, I tried to order a Sapporo at the airport when Kyle and I got there, and I said Sapporo, and the guy looked at me funny, and I said beer, and he's like, okay, and then walked away. So.
And then I also, the karaoke bars were incredibly interesting to me because I did not think they'd be small. Like you think a bar where people come in, like, you know, like our Sunline group would be the only group in there. Like that's it. Like there'd be, it's not like you're in a bar where there's locals all around. It would just be like our group. And then they bring the microphones and we'd have at it. John and I would. We got Kyle.
Amarillo by Morning was a crowd favorite for sure.
So was Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Yeah. Oh, that was the big Japanese favorite. They loved that. And
Star Spangled Banner.
Star Spangled Banner was probably that's when they all stood up and got into it.
Yeah.
It was
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. Oh, they were into it.
Yeah, the Backstreet Boys were boy, I've got the one of Kyle singing right here. I'm not gonna put him through that. I'm just proud that you did it. I'm not gonna throw it up there because we totally peer pressured Kyle into singing karaoke.
It was awesome too because it took about 3 nights to crack him. And then finally we hit on the right song, Matt. We hit the right song, and it was like he came alive. It's like Kyle was dying to do that for 2 nights, and then finally he broke out and just hit us with it. And I thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
And then the last evening we went to karaoke in Tokyo, and I had heard of the salarymen.
Yes.
I mean, lack of a better term, it's like a cultural thing over in Japan. There's guys who they work their butts off all day and then they just go get plastered, right?
Yeah. They have a long week or something and then they just get out of control.
And one of these gentlemen serenaded me. A little too close for comfort.
Matt was definitely his friend that night. And that was exit time.
Yeah.
But no, overall, I have to say a big thank you, not only to Mike Vouster for inviting us to be a part of that, but for me, the hospitality that was shown by Sunline Japan, the staff, the people who left their families, went above and beyond to make sure that we knew where the heck we were going for those 4 days. And the swag that was there, you can see some of that in John's video. And a much better understanding of why, Sunline's catch slogan is the strength to guarantee your confidence. And after seeing where it came from, how it's made, the exact specifications, the passion of the people that are there, I understand why it's some of the most trusted and consistent and dependable fishing line in the world.
I agree.
I agree. And we didn't even really touch on the research that went, there's 11 full-time employees in the research and development. I think that what the number I heard was like 3 of them had PhDs, 3 of them in the research and development. We didn't even talk about plasma rise, global patents for that. The way that functions, it changes the molecular structure of the outside of the fishing line to make it repel water. It just so many cool things with the technology. That's you just, unless you go there and spend 2.5, 3 days there like we did, you can't even really wrap your head
I never even thought one of the biggest things throughout the whole theme was whether the line, regardless of what it was, like absorbed or repelled the water, and how certain line absorbs certain amounts of water, and then that makes it either more abrasion resistance or sink or float. I mean, the level of, and all these different buildings are all dedicated to doing something different. And I think we were the first ones that were allowed in some of the buildings ever that were not like the scientists that were in the buildings, which was pretty cool to see, because you actually say like, this line feels different on my spool. And they were able to sit down and go, here's why. And we're the only people in the world that can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's why the Crank FC is so abrasion resistant. It's got that plasma treatment on the outside of the line. It's not a coating. It is a treatment. It changes, like you said, changes the molecular structure of the outside of the line so that it repels water. It is way more abrasion resistant. I mean, it boggled my mind when I first started using the Crank FC. I'd crank rip wrap rocks for an hour and a half, and then I'd feel my line and it wouldn't have any abrasion. I'm like, how is this even possible? I've been banging these rocks over and over again. It was kind of wild, but now it all makes sense.
And it also makes sense as to why Sunline costs more. You can buy cheap. You can go in and buy a $6 spool of other line if you want to. But, Sunline has always been, I always call Sunline like the lucky craft of line. Like, remember when I was younger and first got into it, I'd like save my money up to go in and buy like a RC 1.5. Be like, my God, it's a $16 crankbait. Or and that line is like that. But after seeing it, you're like, okay, it's not like they're just repackaging and doing it. Like, here is the scientist that they are paying to develop this line, and this is the machine that costs them millions of dollars. That is the only machine that can make this line, and here are the people that are testing this line, and you're like, okay, I understand why you're going to pay a little bit more per spool. You're going to pay a couple extra dollars per spool for it, but having actually seen where that comes from, to me, I thought that was cool.
On one of my videos, the one where I did the tour of the Sunline factory, there were numerous comments that said, I will never again complain about the price of Sunline. Because now they understand it. They get it.
Right.
Yep. I did not understand that beforehand. Like, I thought it was like really good marketing. Like, hey, we're going to have like 3 different lines, but we'll put a purple label on this one. We'll say you throw a crankbait with this one, and we'll say that this one's for flipping. But after watching it and the testing and all that, what were the lines that you guys held that you were like, hey, look at the different stretches in fluorocarbon? That one blew my mind.
Shooter and sniper.
Yeah.
That one really kind of threw you a curveball, didn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, that was you could definitely tell how much more the sniper stretched. Like, it was like you could pull the shooter to like here, and then the sniper you could go like this with it, and keep on stretching. So it was. I mean, and sniper doesn't have much stretch compared to most fishing lines. So, but compared to shooter, it had a ton more stretch. So all those tests like that are the reasons that I wanted to go, because that was the coolest part for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, the braid is made in a different factory. That sounds like it's in like a hard to get to town, and that would be interesting to see it, because I guess it's a deal where that's all super proprietary as to how it's and then boom, braided line.
Yeah, it's more of a textile situation.
Yeah.
They almost didn't even really want to talk about braid that much. Like, there might be some secret stuff going on over there.
There's a lot of secret stuff going on the braid, and with the X plasma and all the different sinking braids, the All Might that they're coming out with. That they came out with, the Overwatch, the standards, the SX1s, all of that. There's, I think, kind of a little bit of an arms race right now when it comes to high-end braid for spinning rods.
They did a good little picture because it's a 5-carrier braid. It's got that one dense core piece, and then it's a 4-carrier braid on the outside. And one of the biggest things that I didn't understand was truly the difference between the application purposes of 4 and 8 strand braid. Like this is the eggy line that they use, but
squid line,
even the sig line that we have here, there's a 4 and an 8 carrier braid. The 8 carrier, everybody in the US always thinks, oh, the 8 carrier is more advanced. There's more, strands to be braided. It's a better line. That's not necessarily the case. The 4-strand carrier is more of what, like when we were talking to Shunsuke, the Japanese pro, he was explaining to me how when he fishes the 4-carrier braid, he's using smaller, like 8 and 10 pound test to be able to get down deeper because the line is stronger, but you're going to have a smaller diameter. So he's like, but you don't have to worry about that line breaking. It's not going to break off. It's not very brittle. But the 8-carrier on the smaller diameters can be a little bit brittle, especially if you're like setting the hook on a drop shot or, trying to put wood on one on an Echo rig, something like that. But he said that he will use the 8 carriers when he goes up to like 10, 12 or bigger line, and when he's trying to cast further because the 8 carriers are smoother. So he said like 60 or 80% of the time he's using the 4-carrier braid. And that to me was kind of like a head explosion situation.
Yeah, that's really good. The colored line also I thought was interesting.
That was kind of strange.
Yeah,
the rod that I borrowed, I tied my Texas rig on, and like there was like that long of like bright pink line right on top of it. I was like, no way I catch anything with this. But
and you did.
I did. I caught 2, so whatever.
But that was the metered line, but also how they color the line and the different colors and how we in America look at colors. And it's interesting. Sunline uses their pro team, and Kyle, you're on the pro team. I'll be interested to see if 12 to 16 months from now, there's some new line that maybe wasn't intended for the bass world that's on the market for the bass world based on that trip. Because you've got some R&D and some testing.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of types of lines to try, and I've already tried almost all of them. And the leader line we got, I like it a lot. I've put it through the ringer so far, and I like it a lot. Yeah.
Are you talking about this?
Can we show it?
Not the
Are
magic.
we allowed to show it?
That's the black screen magic.
I mean, they sell it in Japan.
Oh yeah.
But the regular, not the magic.
Yeah.
Because the magic's the one that had the
the difference
coating, right?
No, the regular has the plasma coating. The magic does not have plasma rise.
Right.
Aha.
So the other one with the plasma rise, I mean, I've skipped a jig on it at Lake of the Ozarks, and like it's dyed, and dyed line's very hard to manage, but whenever it has that plasma rise coating on it, it gets pretty easy to manage. So I'm a fan of it. I like it.
Nice.
Interesting.
We brought back some line, like you said, that 4 and 8 carrier braid that's designed for squid fishing. We actually, as we were headed to the airport one day, we actually saw guys out squid fishing, like with that. There was octopus braid, like to actually catch like octopus, a lot of saltwater stuff for different species. I still haven't figured out. I still have absolutely no clue what the benefit of visible tomato is. I'm very other than, hey, it's a cool name. That is literally the color of it. It's a monofilament, right?
Yes. No.
I do not, for the life of me, I cannot figure out like what the application is for visible tomato.
I don't really understand it either, but
I love the name.
Yeah, and the color. I mean, it would look cool on a reel. But the reason there's so many different lines, like squid line, and there's all the different lines, because they almost cannot market for bass in Japan, right? I don't think we've mentioned that, but bass in Japan is like a trash fish, and they're trying to eradicate them really from the system, and they want people to kill them whenever they catch them. So the companies can't invest any money in marketing for bass. That's why they call it squid line and all these other different types of line over there.
Huh. I'm still trying to figure out visible tomato.
Did you?
I got
you
a
still
whole,
have
like,
a spool of that untimely chub? Or does that kick up every once in a while?
No, that's the new. That was the new line.
Oh, we shouldn't talk about it. It's probably still in the research and development.
No. We did the old brainstorm. We should have asked them how they do come up with the names.
That would be random. The visible tomato, Castaway 6, Blackstream Magic.
It is. Overall, though, 10 out of 10. Incredibly glad. I was not you mentioned, I thought I'd gotten away with it. I thought that I had slept properly, that I'd gotten back, that I'd gotten there, for some reason, my jet lag there, I retained water. It was very unfortunate. I was husky in Japan. like I literally you look at me now, like I went right back to normal as soon as I got back to the United States. I had probably about 10 pounds of water weight on me in Japan. I do not know why. It was the weirdest thing that I had ever, like, my clothes didn't fit. Like, I'm doing videos and I had
to tell you how to stand.
Hey guys, I'm here for Sunline. And then I wore a horizontal vertical striped shirt. It was so bad. I'm trying to find the picture. I took a picture to show. Did I ever show you guys the picture of my foot?
You're all squared up. Yes, you did. You showed me. Yeah.
Well, was it after you got home? I haven't seen it.
No, he was when he was there. I think it's when I came over to your room.
Okay. I'm a flip-flop guy, right? So I wore, I'm going to get a lot of crap for this. Yes, it is a foot picture, but I wanted to take a picture of this to see. And I don't know why, because it had to be salt or something. Look at how swollen my leg is.
The flight. Is that after you touched the poisonous plants?
That was after we got back from fishing. Like, there is no definition. It is just straight swollen.
Cankle.
We did take a panda hunting detour.
We did. Yeah, I don't know what that deal was other than that, but I don't know. I shouldn't have gone down that path.
It could have been a reaction you had from eating the uncooked fish that you weren't supposed to eat.
Yeah, it could have. Long story short, it wasn't until day 3 after I got back that I got hit like a freaking freight train. And it was a full week before I was back to normal. Did you guys experience that same thing?
I did not have any jet lag at all when I got home. I got home at like 6 o'clock in the evening. I went to sleep at like 8 or 9, and I was fine. But
that could have been the sake we had on the plane, Matt. It could have been.
I didn't have any sake on the plane.
Oh, okay. Me and the guy next to me, we had it all, I guess.
Yeah, you sat next to a guy who literally, he leaned over and he's like, I know how to get all the sake on this plane. Just roll with it. And he would go to the different cabins and then come back with sake. And then he passed out hardcore.
I was in the office I got in at midnight and I was in the office the next day, and it was kind of a struggle the first day, but it really wasn't too bad. Then, like 2 days later, it hit me, and I was
a space cadet for about 2.5 days. I felt awful.
Yeah.
I mean, awful.
Yep.
Didn't know what time it was not asleep when I was supposed to, was awake when I wasn't supposed to, was groggy as heck. If I tried to freaking caffeinate or medicate, it was bad for like over a week.
Yeah, about day 5, I got reacclimated. That was good.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. Anything else either of you want to get in?
I think I'm good.
Huge thank you to Sunline and to Mike Vouster, and I told them after the presidential treatment that they gave us over there that we're gonna have to do twice as much as we normally do to kind of like pay for it. So hopefully we can.
It is. Look at John Cruz's YouTube channel, social medias. He has 3 videos out right now. Interview with the professional. That dude was super chill too. I liked the heck out of him.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, Shinsuke and I were the same age.
You guys like hit it off. I think that might be one of those deals where that's your in to go on a fishing trip to Japan, and then maybe you could return the favor on that.
Oh, we already worked that out. It's just a matter of when.
Nice.
Yeah.
Although don't do the well, I guess do it, but remember, like, I think wasn't it Polinick with Koya? And they didn't they do a thing like
I think it was Dice K.
Or Dice K?
Yeah.
Okay. As I say, you start bringing over the competition, and then they just absolutely win half the turn. Doesn't matter who it is, where they're from, but anything else, Kyle?
I'm good. I appreciate it from Sunline, and like I've said a few times, I'm just blown away by how well Sunline treated us. And if Mike Welcher watches this, thank you. I appreciate the invite.
I think he listens to BTL every morning I think he runs a half marathon every morning before 7 a.m.
Pretty impressive.
I think he runs like 12 and a half miles a day.
Well, that's the same amount of steps that I would take for a full marathon. So yeah, probably.
And him and Justin McClellan just had a top 10, I think, top 10 in the Skeeter Championship this past weekend. So
nice.
He can fish too.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck in the last one, Kyle, at the MPFL. Go win another Angler of the Year. They moved that. Where'd they move that thing to?
Murray.
We got Murray in December, so we'll see how that one goes. Who knows?
Very nice. All right. See ya.
All right. See ya.
See you, John.
Thanks.
All right. Later. All right. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. We'll talk about what we got going the rest of the week. Some really cool stuff going down. It's BTL on a Monday, and we'll be back right after this.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery, unparalleled weight savings, keeping you on the water whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
All right, wrapping things up here on a Monday. Special shout out to John Cruz, Kyle Welcher. One more MPFL that was supposed to be in Florida and then obviously got postponed. It was supposed to be in Florida. Then it got canceled. Then it got rescheduled. Then it got moved. That's how it ended up on Murray in December. I'm 50-50 on whether I want to say anything about this. I'm trying to think. What's the... Yeah, I'll say something about it. I pay entry fees. I pay my $2,000 a tournament to get in these. So, I've been very complimentary to Bassmaster for what they've done by listening to the anglers about the opens over the past 3-4 years with the open EQs. A lot of tweaks. It went from, 2 divisions to an overall, 3 in the overall, 5, 1 from each. They've mixed and matched it, but in a roundabout, what they're saying is, hey, the EQs have been very beneficial. We've seen it on the water. We've seen it off the water. As an angler in the EQs, trying to make the Elite Series incredibly beneficial. I'm very proud to have that Bassmaster EQ sticker on the side of the boat. And I look forward to fishing a division this year. Division 2. Lifelong Bass member. It's a lifetime membership since I was 12. I have it right there. Right there. Life member certificate. And I know also, as a competitor, as an angler in bass fishing, you also sign a document that says you won't have do any publicly disparaging comments about the organization. The Elite Series guys sign it. We sign it as Opens anglers. It has resulted in numerous fines at multiple levels of competition. And that's Bass's right. They're a private for-profit company. If I worked for Bass, I too would want to have a positive image portrayed by my anglers. And I've said my piece about how it makes no sense to me as to why you would want to publicly tear down an organization that you depend on to make your livelihood. In a perfect world, I think it's a symbiotic relationship. I think Bassmaster benefits from its anglers, and the anglers obviously benefit from Bassmaster. Without Bassmaster, there are no Open EQs. There is no Elite Series. There is no Dream. They're literally an organization that Ray Scott started, have maintained the integrity and the quality and the prestige of the competition since the 1960s. And that is why today they're the premier tournament organization with the longest running Bassmaster Classic that people spend their entire lives trying to make or travel to watch people lift that. With the EQs this year. So I say all that to say this. It's not a bash on Bass. I'm trying to see how I can say this without being negative, because it's more of a it's more of an observation. When all of this EQ for 2025 was going down, and a lot of it was just kind of spitballing back and forth amongst the anglers. Then an angler would call and talk to Bass. There is no like Bassmaster Open official committee that like talks with Bass on it and says like, hey, like this is the Open EQ committee's what we would like to happen. But you kind of hear bits and pieces and you talk. And I will say that Hank Weldon does an exceptionally good job of calling a lot of different Opens anglers to get their opinions on a lot of different things and taking it into account. There's probably a lot of stuff that happens that's beyond his control there. But as this EQs for 2025 has kind of come together over the last 4 or 5 months, the way that I understood it was going to play out, and the way that the majority of the anglers that I am in contact with in the Opens who understood it would play out, is pretty much how it turned out. You have the top 50 anglers in each division in Division 1 and Division 2, diverse schedule of fisheries that will be the top 50 from each of those 4 will then earn the right to fish a higher entry fee EQ, a 3-series tournament, which has not been announced where that is. We do have the schedules for Divisions 1 and Divisions 2, but the way that I thought it was, the way that I had been kind of, and nothing was officially presented, I want to make that clear, but the way that I understood it to where like, heck yeah, like freaking pull the trigger on this, find a sponsor, this is kick ass, was that the Bassmaster Open EQs, the 3 tournaments at the end of the season, would be a smaller select field with a higher entry fee, with a better ratio payback than the Opens, with no co-anglers, and with more TV time. It will consist of the top 50 anglers from each division. It will consist of the 10 Bassmaster Elite Series anglers who had just been kicked off of the Elite Series due to their performance. But instead of having to go back through the Opens, the Gauntlet, the Purgatory Bass, which I know Hank is called that, they would go to the EQs. So there's 110. Then it would be the 2 Bass Nation qualifiers who finished in 2nd and 3rd. Then it would be 8 at-large burrs, which Bass could assign at their own discretion. Say you've got Angler X who fishes a different organization, but he wants to, hey, yeah, you're an asset, you can go straight to the EQ. Say you have a medical exemptor, someone who had dropped off on the Elite Series, wasn't able to get back on, boom, you go into the EQ. Say you're a major title sponsor and you've got a couple anglers that you went in. Long story short, it would consist of 120 anglers with a better payout, with more exposure at the end of the year, after the end of the Elite Series, to build your brand. These are $3,500 a piece. After we're already paying $8,000 to fish the 4, this is all the points are zeroed, and it's a shot for all the glory. And then they take 10. I thought Bass did a great job of adding an additional, thought 9 was an odd number. Great job of adding an additional spot. 10 of those. So 10 out of 120. Everything was fine and dandy, except there was a press release that came out in September, and I don't know how I missed this, but it ticked me off because it is midway through the press release, and one of the other opens anglers was like, well, yeah, they're fishing it too. And I'm like, no, they're not. It's just the bottom 10. Midway through a press release, this is on September 25th, 2024. And it says this: in addition to the 100 anglers qualifying from both divisions of the Opens, all current Bassmaster Elite Series anglers will be eligible to compete in the elite qualifiers, as well as the second and third place finishers from the Mercury Bass Nation Championship presented by Lawrence. Let me read that again. All current Bassmaster Elite Series anglers will be eligible to compete. That is a massive wrinkle that has drastic implications, not only for the open anglers who make that, but for the stability of the EQs. And this is where it kind of gets into an opinion piece, not a bashing piece. I have always been an adamant supporter of allowing top tour level anglers to compete in the Bassmaster Opens, whether they're BPT anglers, whether they're Elite Series anglers, whether they have Angler of the Years, Bassmaster Classics, the more the merrier, bring it on. In and of itself, the name Bassmaster Opens suggests that it is an open tournament, just like a US Open qualifier. I'm all for that. I don't think that they should be limited to that. Get that opportunity to jackpot one and win more money for your family outside of the Elite Series. Fish an entire series and do what Scott Martin did this past year, which is win one and earn that Bassmaster Classic spot. Where I have some pretty strong feelings is when they open this field for the EQs, where 10 of the anglers will go to the Elite Series, that we're paying those anglers. I say we're because I'm an open angler. I have not made the EQs, and hopefully they're saying here's $3,500, but then they toss the ball to open it up for all 100 of the Bassmaster Elite Series anglers, regardless of whether you were first in the standings, regardless of whether you were 100 in the standings. Where I have the issue is they didn't qualify for the EQs. They are Elite Series anglers. If you wanted to fish one of the four divisions, as is one of the two divisions and the four tournaments in that division as a qualifier to qualify for the Elite Series, have at it. But to just let them pay $3,500 and jump straight to the EQs, where then Elite Series anglers will be taking checks, will be taking camera time, will be diluting the impact of the open angler, the EQ anglers who are paying $3,500 for this, who will take, depending on how many there are, 30 to 40 checks. It will drastically change the fishery because those guys are going to be around fish. They're already on the Elite Series. And then, I made some calls, some texts, and was told, well, the Elite Series guys wanted more opportunities to make the Classic. And this was what was kind of laughable to me. Dude, you're on the Elite Series. There's 100 guys on the Elite Series, and it usually goes down to 43, 44 in the standings. You finish in the top 45% of the 8 tournament league. You are in the Bassmaster Classic. Why are you going to try to come and take another Bassmaster Classic spot away from the Opens? If you wanted more Classic spots, then cut the Opens and give them to the Elite Series guys. It will change the way the fisheries are fished. It will change which of the 10 anglers move on. Like, let's say you make the EQs and you roll up, and angler Y is an Elite Series guy. He's got nothing on the table. He's fishing to win, and he's sitting right on your hole that you wanted to start on. Like, it's going to drastically change things. And there are two reasons why I think this could have been done. One is the Elite Series anglers approach bass wanting more opportunities and more tournaments. So the guys at Bass said, oh yeah, you can just jump straight into the EQs, not the opens. They go directly to the EQs. They don't have to qualify for the EQs, whereas all of the rest of the open guys have to qualify for it. It's a actual qualified series. That's why I got a problem with this. It's not open. And they didn't think, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I do not understand the reasoning behind letting the Elite Series anglers fish the Bassmaster Open EQs outside of the bottom 10. If anybody can come up with a viable reason that makes sense, I will 100% change my mind on this. Because I've talked to 10 or 15 opens guys, 0 for 15. That did not go over well. Half of us had realized it. Like I said, I didn't realize it till just a couple days ago. 0 for 15. Like literally, like it was like me, like they were like, oh, no, it's just the bottom 10. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I went back and I found this. This is the reasoning that they said. From an Elite Series standpoint, the model is extremely attractive. For the guys who failed to requalify, it offers an immediate opportunity to get back on bass fishing's biggest stage. I 100% agree with that. If you're an Elite Series pro and you have a stable of sponsors, the best thing that you can do is go down to the EQs, tell your sponsors, hey, I could still be right back on the Elite Series. You don't lose those deals. You're not stuck at the open level fishing to survive and to get back to that level. Boom. I'm all for that. That is amazing for the anglers, what Bass has done. Then this is where it loses me completely and utterly. For those elites who failed to qualify for the Classic, it offers 3 more opportunities to earn a ticket to the Super Bowl of bass fishing. You could have just finished in the top 45% of the field. That's almost a 1 and 2 option. Or you could have fished, if you were concerned that might not happen, that you might not finish in the top 4, you could just fish one of the divisions like everyone else who paid their $2,000 entry fee. So then you could qualify for the Elite Series to give you that opportunity. Heck, if you fish the 4 opens in the EQs, that gives you 7 more opportunities. I don't understand why they need 3 additional opportunities in a qualifying series that they didn't qualify for, where they're quite possibly going to take a life-changing Bassmaster Classic qualification away from an Opens EQ angler who dedicated their whole lifetime and resources just to making the freaking EQs. It offers a place for any elite pro looking for additional top-tier events to sharpen their skills in the fall. Well, guess what? You're on the Elite Series. Your skills should be pretty sharp already. It should be for 120 anglers, those top 100 from the EQs. Keep developing them. Keep giving them the chances like that. And you're going to see this year, and you saw what it did last year. Bass is doing a fantastic job of creating them, of creating superstars in the sport, creating guys who are ready to come in and compete. This does neither of those things. This does neither of those things. I'm going to stop right there and go back, replay it. I don't think I said anything that was bad. I'm going to stop right there. I need to start the music. Tomorrow, Matt Looney from Bass Cat Boats comes on. They've done some really cool stuff, changing the location, a little bit of the format, about the owners tournament, things like that. We're going to talk to him a little bit about the MPFL. I got a bunch of other guests lined up too, because in a week it's going to be recorded shows, because I'll be at the Bass Nation Championship. That's the other thing. Hopefully I just win the Bass Nation Championship. Don't have to worry about all this stuff. Big shout out to John Cruz, Kyle Welcher, Sunline, and all the other BTL sponsors. Same place, same time tomorrow. See ya.